Breaking tonight, a case once thought to be closed is suddenly wide open again. Tyler Robinson, the man who has spent years behind bars for the high-profile shooting of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, is at the center of a stunning new twist. Fresh testimonies, sworn under oath, now challenge everything we thought we knew. Could the conviction have been built on shaky ground? Did investigators overlook critical evidence in their rush to find a suspect? And most importantly, if Robinson wasn't the shooter, then who was? This is not just the story of one man's fate. It's the story of justice, of trust in our legal system, and of a nation still divided by politics, violence, and truth. Tonight, we retrace the night of the shooting, revisit the trial that captivated millions, and uncover the shocking revelations that may rewrite history. Before we dive into this story, remember this is Detective Kate, True Crime, a channel that stands for justice and giving every case the attention it deserves. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our investigations. And don't forget, share your thoughts and theories below. Every clue counts. Breaking tonight, the nation is once again gripped by the case that shocked America. Tyler Robinson, the man convicted in the high-profile shooting of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, was supposed to be the answer to a tragedy that stunned millions. For years, the verdict seemed final, the killer caught, tried, and locked away. But tonight, everything has changed. New testimonies have surfaced. Testimonies that cast serious doubt on Robinson's guilt. Witnesses who were once silent are now stepping forward, their voices challenging the very foundation of the prosecution's case. And so, the central mystery returns to the forefront. If Tyler Robinson wasn't the killer, who was? This is not just a courtroom battle. This is about the credibility of an entire justice system. About truth versus perception. About whether a man has been condemned for a crime he did not commit. And as these revelations unfold, one question looms larger than ever: is the real shooter still out there? It was a night etched into America's memory. The evening was calm, the air charged with anticipation, as Charlie Kirk stepped onto the stage to address a crowded venue. Supporters gathered in the hundreds, cameras rolling, social media feeds buzzing. Then, chaos. Shots rang out. Screams filled the air. Panic tore through the audience as people dropped to the floor, rushing for cover. Security scrambled, first responders flooded the scene, and in those frantic moments, one of the nation's most polarizing voices lay bleeding. Within hours, law enforcement claimed they had their suspect. Tyler Robinson, a young man with a troubled past, picked up blocks away from the scene. Police said he matched eyewitness descriptions, that his movements were suspicious, and that he was in possession of a firearm. The narrative formed quickly. Robinson was the shooter. In court, prosecutors painted a damning picture. They spoke of motive, opportunity, and anger, suggesting Robinson harbored resentment toward Kirk's politics. The jury was shown grainy footage, shaky testimonies, and the weapon prosecutors insisted tied Robinson to the crime. It was the story of a lone gunman with an agenda, and in a climate already thick with division, it was a story people were ready to believe. The courtroom drama was intense. The defense pushed back, questioning the lack of direct evidence, the inconsistencies in witness accounts. But the tide seemed unmovable. The public had already drawn their conclusions. News headlines screamed for justice. Commentators debated not only the shooting, but what it symbolized in a nation torn apart by political violence. And when the verdict came down, guilty, the nation split in two. For some, Robinson's conviction was justice served. For others, it was too quick, too convenient, and far from convincing. Yet the gavel fell, the sentence was handed down, and Tyler Robinson disappeared behind prison walls until now. Years passed. The headlines faded, Tyler Robinson remained behind bars. Another name, another conviction. But justice, as it so often does, had a way of resurfacing. Quietly, unexpectedly, new voices began to emerge. Witnesses who had once stayed silent out of fear, confusion, or pressure now stepped into the light. Their testimonies, sworn under oath, painted a picture very different from the one that sealed Robinson's fate. One man claimed he saw Robinson running in the opposite direction at the very moment shots were fired. A woman, a local shop owner, recalled Robinson entering her store just minutes before the chaos erupted, too far away, she insisted, to have possibly pulled the trigger. Another, a security volunteer, admitted that in the panic, descriptions of the shooter were muddled, influenced by flashing lights, blaring sirens, and the frenzy of a terrified crowd. Courtroom transcripts from the original trial now tell a troubling story. Key witnesses gave conflicting accounts. Some changed details under cross-examination. And yet, the jury was steered toward certainty. A certainty that no longer holds. Experts revisiting the evidence have raised fresh doubts. The firearm tied to Robinson? No fingerprints. The bullet trajectory, inconsistent with where Robinson was allegedly standing. Even forensic analysts are now questioning whether the weapon presented in court could have been the one that struck Charlie Kirk at all. Piece by piece, the foundation of the case begins to crack. And as each new testimony is layered onto the record, a chilling realization emerges: the pieces of the puzzle no longer fit. The revelations ignited a firestorm. Almost overnight, news outlets across the country seized on the story, each framing it through their own lens. Some painted Robinson as a wrongfully accused man, a victim of a justice system too eager for a conviction. Others doubled down, insisting the new testimonies were nothing more than desperate attempts to rewrite history. On talk shows, anchors debated late into the night. Was this proof of a miscarriage of justice, or the start of a conspiracy to free a convicted killer? Activists rallied outside courthouses, holding signs that read "Truth for Tyler and Justice for Kirk." Politicians, never far from the cameras, seized the moment, some calling for sweeping reform of criminal trials, others demanding harsher penalties to deter political violence. Meanwhile, the digital battleground of social media erupted. Hashtags trended within hours. #FreeRobinson surged alongside #Justice for Kirk, each one pulling the nation deeper into its divide. One side argued Robinson deserved a retrial, that the new witnesses proved the case was fatally flawed. The other side warned against rewriting a verdict that had already delivered closure to a grieving family and a shaken nation. As voices grew louder, one truth became clear: this was no longer just about Tyler Robinson. It was about trust, in the courts, in the media, and in the very idea of justice itself. And the question that hung over it all was haunting: how could a country so divided ever agree on what justice really means? As the testimonies gained traction, Robinson's defense team wasted no time. Motions were filed, appeals drafted, and a call for retrial echoed through the courts. For them, this was not just about reopening a case, it was about exposing the cracks that had been ignored for far too long. Questions began piling up. Why were key eyewitness accounts dismissed during the original investigation? Why did surveillance footage from a nearby building, footage that might have shown the shooter's true movements, disappear before trial? And why did police push so quickly toward Robinson, while other possible leads were left unexplored? Some former officers have quietly suggested the possibility of tunnel vision, investigators under immense political pressure to deliver an arrest, fast. Others whisper of something darker: evidence overlooked, testimonies silenced, and a narrative shaped to fit the needs of the moment. Legal experts now argue that what unfolded was not the careful, methodical pursuit of truth that justice demands, but a rushed conviction built on shaky ground. The defense insists Robinson's trial was less about facts and more about closing a case that had captured headlines. And as each revelation surfaces, the narrator's question grows heavier, more inescapable. Was the rush to convict Tyler Robinson a grave miscarriage of justice? The case of Tyler Robinson now hangs in uncertainty, no longer a closed chapter but an open wound. For Robinson's supporters, the new testimonies are proof that an innocent man has spent years behind bars for a crime he did not commit. For others, the conviction still stands, a verdict they believe must not be overturned. But beyond the noise of headlines, protests, and political spin, one truth remains undeniable. If Tyler Robinson wasn't the killer, then the real shooter is still out there. It is a thought as chilling as the night of the attack itself. Somewhere lies the unanswered question of who pulled the trigger, and why. Was it political rage, a calculated plot, or a random act of violence that found the perfect scapegoat? Until those questions are answered, the shadow of doubt will linger, over the courts, over the investigation, and over a nation struggling to decide whether justice was truly served. And so the story remains unfinished. Tyler Robinson's fate, Charlie Kirk's legacy, and America's faith in its justice system, all hanging in the balance. The final verdict, it seems, has yet to be written.